The second dynasty we're going to be talking about today is the Chou dynasty, commonly referred to as the Zhou dynasty in the Western Hemisphere. We're going to see the Chou dynasty take over, kind of come into power after the Shang dynasty through their use of feudalism. This is going to be a very large dynasty, and the reason they're going to get so large is due to their ability to successfully use the feudal system. We're going to see, just like in the Shang dynasty, and if you guys are thinking back to our Middle Ages unit, that the kings and the court officials and the warriors are all at the top, while the artisans, farmers, and slaves are at the bottom. The feudalism is going to allow for this rigid structure to take place and allow for a governing body to be successful. Now, the Zhou kings are a little bit different from some of the kings you might be thinking of from the Middle Ages because they believed in what is called the mandate of heaven. The mandate of heaven was this idea that the gods chose who would be the ruler, who would be in charge of the people. And ultimately, this idea is going to make way for particular rulers to come into power. We're going to see that if you were not a sufficient ruler during this time period, you would often be deemed inappropriate or even removed from your position due to the gods' liking. So it's very important that you were a good ruler and you were fair and just to all of the citizens within the Chou dynasty. This idea of the mandate of heaven and a lot of new ideas and kind of thinking during this time period is going to be very, very important. So the next thing we're going to want to write down is looking at the different philosophies that are going to be kind of sparked during this time period. So we're going to see what is called Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism. We're actually going to get more into these three philosophies in our Section 2 notes. So we will come back to them, but I definitely want you to take a moment and write them down now. So after the fall of the Zhou kings, we're going to see that this dynasty it's going to last for quite a bit, but they're actually going to fall because of all of these new philosophies. So it's actually going to come back to hurt them in a sense because these new philosophies are going to spark questions. And we're going to see that the people who are at the top, if you're thinking again about the feudal system, the kings, the court officials, and the warriors, they're all going to start to question this idea of the mandate of heaven. And so this is what's going to lead to a time period known as the Warring States. The Warring States was this time period of political division in the Chou dynasty where the nobles during this time period didn't want to listen or kind of abide by the rules that the king was producing. And so the nobles and some of the wealthy people during this time period are going to kind of split and divide, and they're going to have their own territory, which they are going to want to keep control over. So again, we're going to see the Zhou dynasty come in, be very extremely important. This idea of the mandate of heaven is going to allow particular rulers to take charge because they were chosen by God. But again, it's also going to allow for some rulers to be overthrown that are not sufficient. With all these new thinking, we're going to see this three new philosophies: Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism. And then finally, the Chou dynasty is going to end here with the Warring States period, where with these new philosophies, people were questioning the mandate of heaven and questioning why people were in particular positions and questioning the feudal system. So we're going to start to see that will be kind of the downfall of the Chou dynasty.